Right, now we come to the bit that I've been looking forward to. I've already put the white on the chimney pots earlier when I did the background there. And you see we can't leave them white. I've got to put a little bit of orange on them, I think, to make them just stand back a little bit. And I'm going to use the colour of the paper here to create the texture. Now that doesn't look much there, but you wait until I finished it. And the same here. So there we are. That gives it impression of brickwork. Now just spot it a little so it blends in. We don't want it quite as rustic as that. That's great. Now on the other side of that, you put the same colour, which is 182 I've used here. Now that doesn't show up at all yet, but what we're going to do is put the dark brown. This is 176, and that gives us the shading. Now at the same time we do that, we can just put just a little touch of detail in there. You can't get very much in because it's very small. And same with this side. It doesn't show up very much, but a couple of little things we can do. We can make that just a little darker. Now we can put a bit of black on there. Now the black isn't going to interfere too much with the colour because it's a darkening agent. So all we've done really is darken the brown. But you couldn't really just put black in on its own. It would have been too severe. Well, there we are. Now that's pretty good. Now just to make it a little bit richer, we put just a little touch of white, and it really is just a little spot there and a little spot there. Now you can't do any more than that, it's too small, but it's enough just to give us a little bit of black under there as an idea too, the contrast. Alright, now what about the roof? Well, the roof of the building I'm going to put in grey to start with. Now we want it to be a slate roof, and because it's in the shadow, we want it to be much darker than that, and a little bit here. Now this is going to be trickier because I just want it to be, yeah, that's just about right. It's got to show up against the background, and just to make sure that we've got it right, we can just put a little spot of light grey in there. Okay, and now here we're going to put, if I can find the colour, I'm going to put 157 in. Here we are. No, I've lost it at the moment. I have to find it. It's here somewhere. Found it. As you can imagine, I've got a lot of pencils out, and it's very easy, especially with these dark colours, to actually lose the colour. Now this is blue. We're going to put a colour on top of that in a minute. Make it even darker. Now just underneath that, can't put it on top because it won't show up, but just there, because we're going to put white on here in a minute. Okay, that's got that in there, and now on top of that, the black. If you're wondering about that, I'll show you how we're going to do that in a minute. Once again, we've got to use a light colour. Good. Blend using the colour shaper. and all of those colours that we put on will come together to give us a slate roof in shadow. There you go, done. Now what about that? What I'm going to do there is I'm going to use my 184, which is 183, which is an ochre. A little bit of 183 in there, and then follow it with just a spot of white. There we are. Now if that's too strong, as I feel it is, what we've got to do is bring the background down just a touch. Now you never can really finish this off until you get to the situation that we're in now, so I'm just going to make that just a little slimmer because it's just a little strong at the moment. That was one. A little detail as well while I'm about it. That was 167 and just a little spot of black like that. Now you don't have to go to this far, folks, but it makes such a difference when you can just use the colours to set the other details alight, which I've done there. Excellent. Now what about the building? Well, that's going to be white. That's solid white all over there, and I'll do that in a minute, but what I want to show you is how we do this. Leave the windows and the doorway. Now you know that I said that this is white and that's white, but of course this is in shadow. So how do we do that? Well, you use the grey on top of the white. Again, leave the windows. And then the 181 on top of the grey. Now this is a light application, you don't be too heavy with this, but it's very important that we put all these colours in. And then you blend it with your blender. I would use the grey colour shaper here. And it looks a little bit of a mess there, doesn't it? And then we put the white back on. Now the reason we do all of that is because putting the white back on here now, it means it won't be pure white. But when I've finished the whole thing off, you'll see it has it's a shaded white. And if you can do it, this is why I said leave the windows. I've got a sharper white somewhere. Here we are. If you can get just a little bit of light here, which will now show up. Because we haven't put any colour on the window, on the doors and the windows. And then you use your this one, which is the 181, to put the window in. And if you can, there's not a lot of room, you'll have a little more room. That's just because I'm making your picture just a little bit bigger. There we are, and same on this side. Those of you who like miniature work will love this picture, because that's very reminiscent. Now just a little bit of the 181 back in again, just to put a touch of depth in like that. And here we might as well just use the grey in there. This is the doorway, and that little tiny bit of dark there. There, now that's pretty good. Now we just make it, tidy it up a little bit. We've got the white there, which is great. What we've got, you see, is the light against the dark, but even though it's a white, see, white, make sure we've got it. You can always go over, you see, and just make sure that it's a bit crisper, like that. Now, just before I leave you, let's just tidy up a little bit. I think I'll use the black here. What we've got to do now is to bring down the overhang slightly on this side. Just means coming back into the roof again and just making sure that we have looking as real as we can. And here, same here. Excellent. And if you can, bring down the black. And I wouldn't put any undercolour on, it's too small an area to worry about, but a little bit of black on that would work really well. Okay. Now, what I'm using is the 172 here, just to make it just a little bit lighter on that side, so everything stands out nicely. Okay, that's it. Now the white, when the white goes in here now, you get a lovely crisp finish. I'll show you how to do that window in a moment. I'll bring the white down. And what we do then is blend it. Now what I've got here on my colour shaper is just a little bit of colour that I've taken from here and on the roof. So you can travel that into the white. If you haven't got any on there and you've cleaned it off, well then all you've got to do is put just a little bit of grey back in. Not too much, we don't want this to be too pristine. And then make it look a little bit more rustic. And there we are, smashing. I think we're making it just a little lighter down there. A little bit of, it's an outhouse with a roof on it, and if you were really fussy, what you do is make it just a little bit of shadow down there. Just it makes it a bit more believable. Now what about this window? Well, once again, it's too small to build up with lots and lots and lots of different tones, so I've just gone in with a 181, squared off, bring your white back there, make it, you see you can use the lighter colour like that, and if you've got a nice sharp white, which I have here, you can then just make it, if you want to, just a little feature here, like that. And if we come down on this side with the 181 very, very lightly, just a little darker. There you go. And just underneath that building, just a little bit more depth. I think you'll agree now that that looks pretty impressive. A bit of black in there, and you could even, if you feel really ambitious, you can also put a little bit of blue. This is 149, because it would be a blue slate here. You can put it back in. I think that looks pretty swish. There you go. Now that's quite small, folks. It's my little finger, so you can see that that really is miniature.